travel to do research for locations?
I did when I first started the books up through about book 7 or book 8. I mean, there was just no way I could possibly afford it. I did a lot of my research online. I started making contacts online for people in Chicago, so I'd be able to say, hey, I need to know what the west wall of Graceland Cemetery looks like. And I'd have somebody say, oh, I drive by there on the way to work every day. I will take pictures on my cell phone and email them to you. And I'm like, oh, I love the internet. Lately, I've been able to say, okay, I need a couple of rooftops that are about the same height and are fairly close together. Let me go get Google Earth. Okay, and I find 2 buildings that are exactly what I want, and where are the streetlights? They're right here because I can zoom in and see them. He'd have to remove all these streetlights right here to make this feasible. Okay, and so then I can write a good scene that way. I've actually gone to Chicago several times now. I was actually in the Field Museum. I got a picture of myself in front of Sue trying to hitch a ride. The same day when I went to the Field Museum, I also went to the aquarium, and I'm like, oh, I have got to use this in a book. And they had this lady taking a tour of school kids through, looking at all the dolphins underwater, and I'm like, ma'am, okay, just so you know, if you ask them, ma'am, what would happen if this glass broke? I mean, if somebody shot it or something. They don't take that in nearly as good a humor as you would think. Even if you say, no, I need to know for professional reasons. Okay, so just FYI.
Shannon must not have been there with him for that.
Yeah. Do I ever give myself nightmares? Mostly about showing up to someplace to sign my books. Only I can't sign them because I didn't finish them. It's like one of those I didn't get my homework done dreams. I've never appeared naked in one though, which I think that's a mercy for all of us. But other than that, no, not really. Where did McAnally come from? McAnally, I basically just needed kind of a neutral barkeep character where I could have a lot of things happen. I wanted to have sort of a little microcosm Casablanca where I could have the Nazis and the French rubbing elbows. I needed a name for the barkeep because I was writing it fairly early in the Dresden in Stormfront. So I named him after my friend McAnally, who was a buddy of mine all the way through junior high and high school. And who liked his drink. I was always like the sober guy. I was always the guy that when people were going to go somewhere that they were going to be drunk, they'd be like, "Hey Jim, do you want to go?" Because they knew I wasn't going to drink, and that way they had somebody to drive. So I got to wind up and I remember all these things that these other people have no memory of. So I feel kind of special,
So you said that Dresden Files started as this sort of FU to your teacher moment, and then you said that you have planned so many books in the pre-apocalyptic trilogy. At what point did it change from FU to when did you stop and do that planning?
When did I stop and do the planning? After I handed the first chapter to my teacher and she read it and she looks at me and she says, "You did it." I said, "What?" She says, "This will sell. You will be able to sell this to a publisher. This is of professional quality. You've been working towards this for years. You did it." And I said, "I did?" She says, "Yes." And it was the first time, her praise from this teacher was like, she was not preparing you she was not the kind of teacher who would write a big star in your paper and put it on the refrigerator for you so everybody could see how good it was. She was the kind of teacher who would literally roll up a chapter after she'd read it, lean over, thwap you lightly on the head with it and say, "What were you thinking?" and then tell you, and then tear it down. In a very neutral, mechanic craftsman fashion, but that's what she would do. And so when she said, "You did it," I was just like, I was rolling my jaw up on a stick because it just kept hitting the floor. And so after that, I said, "Well, if you really think this could go, do you think I should plan for a series?" She's like, "Well, that might be something that you would consider, yes." And so I went home and wrote out and planned it for a 20-book series. And I came back and I said, "A 20-book series, do you think that would be okay?" And she sort of gets this little smile on her face, and she says, "You know, I think if you can sell a 20-book series, yeah, you'll be doing fine."
So how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing fine. Yeah. I had no idea exactly how dry that was at the time. I mean, because there's no way you can walk up to a publisher as an unpublished author and say, "I want to sell you a 20-book series." That's impossible. That doesn't happen, and I didn't know it was impossible, so I did it. Go figure. Like I said, I've stumbled into things a lot, and then I think I've been fortunate enough to realize in time that I had a good thing going, and then smart enough not to ruin it. So you know, and plus, you know, there was, you know, writing for 10 years without getting paid is kind of, you know, my in papers, but. You know, that's the kind of investment you have to make when you're not very innately talented, which apparently I wasn't. It was a lot of working to build up skills.
Are you still in touch with this teacher?
Am I still in touch with the teacher? We swap emails once or twice a year. I wrote her a letter that was for her students, so that she could show it to them. And the letter starts off, "Dear Debbie students, shut up and do what Debbie tells you to do." And then I tell them that story, and then at the end, so in conclusion, you know, my career would have taken off 5 years sooner if I had just shut up and done what Debbie told me to do. You know, sincerely, Jim Butcher.
I had the same question.
Amanda must have been chomping at the bit, wondering who's going to wield Amaracchius and
Ah.
Yeah, okay, who's going to get to wield the two new swords?
Kind of see him
Or
tap
not the two
inside
new
of
swords,
his
but the two
elbow.
swords that are in Dresden's keeping right now. And are we going to get anything more about that from Ghost Story? Probably not now.
How long will they have to wait?
Let's see. We'll probably get the new wielder of Fidelocius in book 14 or 15.
Really?
Amaracchius is that's gonna be apocalypse time by the time Amaracchius goes off the shelf. Amaracchius is not one of those swords that really rampages around the world very often, and when it does, you've heard about it. So.
I read the last book, and I was very curious about the development of Harry the Guard Dog, and I was trying to see where you get a little bit of
Dogosaurus Rex.
Backstory on Mouse? I mean, there's like 8 weeks before Harry got him. That's really not a whole lot to fit that in. I mean, in terms of what he is, I will say this about Mouse: he does have a bunch of brothers and sisters who wonder how come they haven't heard from him. You never howl, you never pee on anything. And plus, there is, I will just say that the possibility exists that Harry didn't rescue all of them, and if so, where are the others?
Interesting.
Never mess with the dog. The audience hates it when you mess with the dog.
There have been several folks who have said, you need to write a Mouse and Mister. Oh my gosh, that would so be like an episode of Pinky and the Brain. But we will learn more about Mouse when, you know, really you have to have someone who's able to talk to him, and the only one who can talk to animals is Injun Joe right now. So. What? Oh, if you knew where Mouse was, maybe. Will Harry find love and get to keep it? Maybe. Yeah, the romance is the one thing I never really sketched out. I wanted it to be kind of more organic, to go along with the story as it developed or didn't. And as it turns out, you know, the person that you're in love with can have some small effects on other aspects of your life. You know, who knew?
So you yourself don't know where that particular angle is going yet?
No. Why? It's too much fun to find out while I'm writing it. So I'll let you know as soon as I do. Well.